To understand India's modern intelligence network, we have to look back to the British colonial era. The British created a unit called the Thuggee and Dacoity Department to trace local bandits. Eventually, that exact same framework morphed into the Intelligence Bureau, or IB. But when India gained independence in 1947, a massive crisis hit immediately. Departing British forces destroyed or stole decades' worth of secret files and agent networks. The newly independent IB was left completely blind, with its mandate strictly limited to managing internal border security. That purely internal focus created a massive external blind spot. Because the IB wasn't looking past India's borders, they completely failed to predict the 1962 border war with China and missed the warning signs for the 1965 war with Pakistan. Without a dedicated external eye gathering intelligence on foreign soil, the young nation was fighting its geopolitical battles completely blind. To fix these critical blindsides, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi took a radical step in 1968. She tasked legendary spy master R&AW with building a brand new intelligence agency from scratch, one entirely focused on foreign threats. They called it the Research and Analysis Wing, or RAW. The creation of RAW immediately triggered a vicious bureaucratic turf war. The IB actively sabotaged the new agency by refusing to hand over vital foreign intelligence files, and they blocked the transfer of crucial cryptography and foreign language experts. To get around this internal blockade, Cow had to get creative. He worked with the Foreign Secretary to generate fake job requirements at Indian embassies abroad, using these cover roles to discreetly plant his newly trained RAW operatives across the globe. RAW was an agency born in intense adversity. Before it could even start fighting foreign adversaries, it had to figure out how to survive domestic sabotage from its own government. By the early 1970s, R&AW was securing major tactical victories. One early operative, known as Kashmir Bedi, crossed into Pakistan and set up a covert radio link to transmit intelligence back to Delhi. His ground-level photographs revealed that the United States was secretly supplying military aircraft and weapons to Pakistan, breaking its own arms embargo. Armed with that intel, R&AW shifted from passive listening to aggressive psychological operations. When Indian police captured a Kashmiri militant named Hashim Qureshi, who was planning a hijacking, Spy Master Cow convinced him to work for India as a double agent. Cow ordered Qureshi to go ahead and hijack an Indian civilian plane, landing it in Lahore, Pakistan, exactly as the militants originally planned. The stunt gave India the exact international justification it needed to declare its airspace closed to Pakistani flights, crippling Pakistan's logistics right before the 1971 war broke out. By 1971, R&AW had graduated to actively orchestrating geopolitical events to secure India's advantage, but sudden political shifts nearly destroyed the agency. In 1977, the new Prime Minister, Morarji Desai, took office. He deeply distrusted R&AW, viewing it as Indira Gandhi's private spy army, so he drastically slashed their budget and halted their external operations. This rollback had severe consequences right as an emergency was brewing. Despite the budget cuts, R&AW agents in Pakistan noticed scientists keeping strange hours at the Khan Research Laboratory. To figure out what was happening, Indian operatives befriended the scientists' local barber. They stole clippings of the scientists' hair from the shop floor, sent them back to India for testing, and found high levels of neutrino radiation, confirming Pakistan was secretly building a nuclear weapon. Desai's response was a catastrophic political failure. First, he refused an offer from Israeli intelligence to jointly bomb the lab. Then, during a routine phone call with Pakistan's President Zia ul-Haq, Desai casually mentioned that India knew exactly what was happening inside the Khan research facility. The cost of that leak was immediate. Pakistan launched a massive manhunt to clear out the spies, resulting in the capture and execution of multiple R&AW field agents. The agency didn't recover until Indira Gandhi returned to power in 1980, authorizing a massive resurgence in funding and technology. Soon after, R&AW's London-based network intercepted a curious order from Pakistani military. 150 sets of extreme cold weather gear designed to survive -50-degree temperatures. Indian intelligence mapped the timeline of the coat deliveries and realized Pakistan was preparing to occupy the disputed Siachen Glacier. Using that exact timeline, the Indian Army preemptively airdropped 300 troops onto the glacier in 1984, securing the strategic high ground before the Pakistani forces even arrived. R&AW learned a brutal lesson in its first decade. Political distrust and loose lips from leadership are far more lethal to an intelligence agency than any enemy spy. By the late 1990s, R&AW possessed vast technological capabilities, ranging from cyber operations to digital wiretaps. But a fatal institutional flaw remained inside the Indian government, an absolute failure to share information between intelligence agencies and the military branches. R&AW agents operating in Brussels intercepted a Pakistani purchase of 500 pairs of combat boots, specifically marked for the Kargil region. At the same time, agents spotted new artillery battalions massing on the border. Both warnings were forwarded, and both were entirely dismissed by military intelligence. Concurrently, gross negligence was severely crippling their monitoring efforts. The Aviation Research Center, which was responsible for flying aerial surveillance over that exact border region, instead lent a vital reconnaissance plane to a cabinet minister so he could take his girlfriend on a joyride. These compounded errors led straight into the tragedy of the 1999 Kargil War. India learned the hard way that collecting mountains of raw data is completely useless if the bureaucratic machine refuses to communicate and process it. Following the war, the government forced a reckoning. The Kargil Review Committee launched a massive investigation and identified siloed intelligence, agencies hoarding secrets from one another, as the ultimate cause of the military blindside. To fix this, India initiated a total structural overhaul of its national defense apparatus, leading to the creation of the National Security Council, or NSC. This animated flowchart shows the NSC's new three-tier model. At the bottom level, isolated agencies like R&AW, the IB, and military intelligence are now forced to pool their gathered data into a single centralized hub, the Joint Intelligence Committee. Once that data is pooled, it is analyzed by specific field experts and strategic policy groups. They refine the intelligence into a single coordinated strategy that is handed directly to the Prime Minister for final approval. Modern espionage functions as a highly integrated organism, utilizing forced coordination and shared knowledge as the ultimate